And so I think that the main verse that jumps out to me about this is a passage in Matthew 12:33-37. Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad. For the tree is known by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you speak of good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good person out of the good treasure brings forth good, but the evil person out of the evil treasure brings forth evil. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. And so in this passage, we see a lot of value, a lot placed on the words that we speak. But of course, our actions are similar, right? We're going to be held accountable for our actions as well as our words. And certainly out of the abundance of our heart, we act. And so I think that it's just telling, dissect the underlying values and priorities of each of these groups. We see that they're acting out their different beliefs. And the big thing about this story is that the beliefs are not, the concern isn't over whether or not they are true, right? And the guys in the chat have been saying this too. There's a lot of discussion over how religion is used, not whether it is true or not. And that's really the biggest thing we see, especially with the Bene Gesserit. They are manipulators of religion. And it would appear that the Fremen are the ones being manipulated more so than anyone else. So I don't know. There's certainly a lot to that. But the big takeaway was that belief informs practice. Did that jump out to you guys? Are there any other examples that speak to that?
I think with the Fremen, it's very obvious. You have the scene where Jessica goes in to drink the water, and she comes out and essentially she's alive again. And then what you have is Strickland and all of his people are like bowing down, worshiping. And then you have Zendaya's character like kind of angry, disbelieving that whole thing.
We had the millennials over there, right?
Yeah.
Gen Z.
Yeah.
But I think that's telling of our culture too. One thing I was thinking of specifically in those scenes where it's talking about the Fremen's faith is I was asking, is that how the world looks at Christians? Because I feel like they set up those characters to almost be idiots, for lack of a better term. Like they want you to think of them that way. But we see that exactly what they believe is what they are willing to die and fight for. There is not a basis of objective truth that anyone's actually standing on outside of the Fremen. The Fremen see it as objective truth, and that's why I would actually argue for Paul as a Messiah and fulfilling that Messiah, because all of their prophecies are coming true with Paul, and they're living in such a way that you're seeing that happen. It almost seems like that's the objective reality, and then everyone else is just trying to play subjectively at it. Even with the Bene Gesserit, right? They're saying, well, we're the ones that put it all together. But then the reality is they have backup plans and backup plans and backup plans because they don't know if Paul will actually be it. So it does seem like the Fremen have the objective reality here, and everything else is just subjective. And I think that's one of the things when you're talking about beliefs informing practice. Right now for the Christian school I teach at, I oversee chapel. And we're going through the Gospel of John and the sermon series, The Heart of Belief. And so every single week, I'm encouraging the kids, if you say you're a Christian, this should naturally produce fruit. And we just went through John 15. Well, John 15, Jesus is saying, abide in me. He says that over and over. And then he says, abide in me and in my word. And so then he gets at the fruit that is born through abiding. Well, we can't abide in Jesus on our own. We need Jesus to help us to abide. He just said that in John 14. But then we also can't fulfill abiding in the word on its own. So we can't practice the faith without the help of Jesus. And then on top of that, we're told that the Father is going to prune us as we're abiding. So he's going to be helping us look more and more like Jesus. All of those culminate in the fact that Jesus is the only means by which we can abide. And so Jesus seems to be giving the command, abide in me, be in me, believe in me, and then do what I command of you. But the reality is we can't believe in Jesus apart from grace and the awakening of the Holy Spirit. And we can't abide in the law apart from grace. And even James says the good that we want to do, we can't do. James, that's Paul. But James goes on to say, if we try to keep the law, right, we will be crushed under all of it if we break any part of it. And so belief informing orthopraxy, the big thing that we've been trying to get at in chapel is like, you're going to fail, but you need Jesus. And you need to recognize you need Jesus because you're going to fail. And so live in light of that. And I think that's what the Fremen are seeing. Like they have that objective reality. They have that Messiah figure who is going to help them. And everyone else is just kind of figuring it out as they go.
Yeah.
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 So it seems like if we were to say, did the Bene Gesserit orchestrate all of it? Yes, but perhaps to a degree, yes. But perhaps what's happening is similar to a line of dialogue between the Emperor and Irulan. She says, you underestimate the power of faith. And then later even they're talking about the value of a prophet, even if the prophet is dead. Yeah, I think that there may be something to
we
this.
can't kill him because then he'll become more powerful,
Right,
basically.
right. And so, which is very true, even in a false prophet scenario, to make a martyr of someone. But in this case, I think that you might be right that the Bene Gesserit had orchestrated all of this and it essentially worked all according to their plan, except the Fremen. The Fremen threw a giant wrench into it because they actually had this hope for Messiah, and then they provided the firepower behind all of it. And so was he their Messiah? Not in a supernatural way, but in a Bene Gesserit orchestrated way. And then that ended up, in a sense, being the undoing of the Bene Gesserit, sort of. We won't get into what happens in the future books. Or is it? Right?